All right, all right, all right. This is Jeff Townsend, and joining me as always is the legendary former ECW guy, former WCW guy, former WWF guy, former Tough Enough guy, turned then that point on trainer extraordinaire,
Former.
former NXT starter, NXT breaker, NXT maker, all the above. You're everything. You're
I
everything.
am.
Wind beneath my wings, Bill DeMott. How you
I've
doing?
I've been it all. I've done it all, and I'm still a former. Hello, my friend.
So yeah, those of you watching for the first time, welcome. We got plenty of people jumping in across 8 different platforms live
Yes.
right now. Comment along, join us on the experience. Bill, talking of experience here, you're in a new room here, man. You got starfish in the background. You got kicked out of the other room.
I got kicked. I got kicked out of the main part of the mansion, and I'm taking over. We have, everything we do is foundation. So even when I'm not at the foundation's office, I'm always working from home doing something. So this is the room. This is Carrie's bedroom. And so what we've done is put my home office, into Carrie's room where we keep a lot of the foundation stuff. So it's a mess this week. I apologize to everyone, but everyone gets to see the starfish in the back, the giant starfish. And like I was telling you offline, we use that for community events, and when we go to safety events and things like that. The starfish is part of Carrie. So we got the starfish outfit, and we always have a volunteer who dresses up, and we hand out the bracelets and things like that. So that's kind of one of the funner things we do with the younger kids. So I'm in the process of rearranging. So I apologize to everyone for the.
I'll tell you what, though, if you're not careful and that thing slid down more, it'll turn into a dog bed around there.
I'm telling you, with the lights off and you turn it on, I think the eyes follow me.
Oh,
I'm a little. It's a little kabuki-ish, with the starfish thing staring at me like that.
this will fit into the scary stories, show that I have.
Mm.
Huh. That's another day for another time. We'll get Bill
I'm a
on there
big
when we
baby
go.
with that stuff. I'm a big baby with scary stuff.
He's a big
I'm a big
man. So
baby.
like I said, we're here live all across social media, YouTube, all the above. The Bill DeMott experience is growing, man. The little
Yeah,
YouTube
thank
channel
you.
that
Yeah.
could.
The cool thing about what we're doing, and again, always tip of the hat to you for all the hard work you put in the other 18 days we're not shooting this. There's, you're like the Beatles, 88 days a week.
Wow.
But
I've been
the
called worse, so I'll take it.
the beauty part of it is that on these other platforms that we're now on, is getting the messages and seeing comments and things like that from the experiencers. So it's really cool how it's picking up, and I really look forward to this every week.
And there's so much more we could do too. I tell you, it's just you got to have enough time in the day.
Yeah, but there's this little thing called life that interrupts all that.
Little thing called
So
life and little
it's
thing called
it's a
content
work in
creation.
progress, but you're doing a hell of a job, man.
Appreciate it, Bill. I'm excited to talk today, man. I actually don't have a whole lot of the agenda, but there is a there's a big thing going around the. Oh yeah. Thanks, Chad Michael. I see you commenting. I don't even know what it said. Chad
He's
Michael's
here.
being
Chad's here.
Yeah, Chad Michael's being rude. So we are gonna talk today about Tony Khan on Twitter. So I gotta change my hat because Chad Michael's making fun of it. I'm feeling self cautious now. You want to lead us off with what happened on Twitter this week that you saw from your point of view, Bill DeMott?
So what I saw on social media, not what I know, what I saw was Tony Khan having issue with Jinder Mahal back on WWE TV. Not only having issue with Jinder Mahal, almost tormenting WWE creative and kind of chastising them saying this is what you got. Jinder Mahal never hasn't been around, and all of a sudden he's in the main event with Seth Rollins, right? That's kind of the gist of it. So he was kind of going, really, that's all you got for me? Is the way I took it, but I can't hear you.
I'm muted. I was pointing to
Yeah.
Chad Michael. It says
Yeah,
be
Chad
kind.
Michael.
My hat.
Yeah, read it, Chad Michael. Dang you.
Anyways, you hit the hammer on the nail. He just kind of it's almost like he can't like resist himself, you know? Like he just can't not comment back, or he cannot not reply. Let's kick it off with this. Let me see if I can find it. So, cool thing here. I actually found a new podcast. I'll be honest, I didn't know this one exists. So, Matt Morgan teams up with a couple guys.
Oh, Matt's right down the street from me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Matt's the mayor, or is he the commissioner now, or is he's the commissioner? I think
I don't remember how they were. I don't remember how they word it.
I think he might be the commissioner. I don't think he's the mayor. I think he's the commissioner.
The commissioner. That sounds cooler, doesn't it?
It does sound better than mayor.
So the first thing that stood out to me about this show is, and I'll show you it to you here. It had the most amazing thumbnail on YouTube ever, and it's definitely, I'm sure, will be their most downloaded video ever because of this great thumbnail artwork. Then we'll go into the clip. Check this out.
Okay.
We got it here.
Oh, geez.
Gigantic Pop is the name of the podcast.
Matt, have you ever gotten in a Twitter fight with anyone? I feel like I'm the only one.
So number one, you were doing what was a very leading hashtag back a while ago, and it should be again, and that's don't hinder Jinder. Jinder's gotten himself in amazing shape. This dude is shredded. As far as his body looks, his work has gotten better. He became, out of left field, a heavyweight champion. And the show, they advertised a former heavyweight champion would be here. So the fact that Tony tried to clown that, make fun of that, after you tried to point out that there's at least a little history here between the two, between him and Seth Rollins. This is why you guys, I'm going to shock you here for a second. If Tony Khan was not such a mark, constantly replying to Tom, Dick, and Harry, or anybody that sends anything remotely semi-negative about AEW on Twitter, this is the time, Tony, to respond. When the USA Network, who, this is beyond me, actually has somebody that's plugged into professional wrestling enough to even know who you are, what your show is, et cetera, and then more importantly, to clown you about you being such a mark for Cage, whatever it is, wrestling.com, and how you judge your show's success, which these matches get like 32 votes, some get like 64, and like that's what you're basing your success on. That's pathetic. But neither here nor there. This is the time, yes, Tony, this is the time you defend your company when people are making fun of you, especially a USA Network executive, yes. But unfortunately, because you're not just the boy that cried wolf, you're the boy that's cried wolf for like 3 years straight on Twitter. This is why you need to have your Twitter taken from you. People say Trump needs to have his Twitter taken away. Tony Khan, you're not too far behind. You need to have your Twitter taken from you, because when you had a chance now to defend your company, it falls on deaf ears because you constantly have this contest of trying to be the world's tallest short person and brag about stupid things that nobody on God's green earth would brag about with their company or their ratings and this and that. And because you reply to everybody because your skin is so amazingly thin, this was your chance to actually hit back, and it's going to fall on deaf ears. It's like the tree that falls in the forest. Nobody's listening because you don't shut the F up on Twitter. I'm begging you. My friends work there. My friends in the future are going to work there. If you want success for your company, please stop being such a mark.
The Blueprint, Matt Morgan.
Yeah, like, here's the only thing I disagree with. And we've talked about it. Why is he on Twitter? Listen, if you want to read about yourself, or if you need, to know that you're being talked about or your company's being talked about as trending worldwide or all these things, have Twitter and look at it. And we've talked about it before. Nothing good comes from the owner, creator, booker becoming a Twitter nerd. You know what's so funny is you sent that to me, and without me seeing it, I sent it to you because great minds think alike. And the first, here he goes again. Why? And why are you bagging? Here's the thing, you're bagging on someone that you'd hire in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I'm
But-
sure he'd hire Jinder Mahal.
So if you know the history of Jinder and Seth all the way back to NXT and the first NXT champion and all these things that come up, why and then why are you so concerned with what someone's doing with someone else when you've got Hobbs, Wardlow, Miro, Willow, all these people, all these O's on the back burner not doing anything? Be concerned about your product, be concerned about your system, be concerned about your people, your players, your business, your organization, your things. But here you can't recreate, and we've talked about this, you can't recreate WCW WWE rivalry. Tony's not putting WWE out of business. Tony's not getting 83 weeks, he's not getting 8 weeks, he's not getting 3 weeks. But all he keeps doing is shedding more viewers to turn over and see what he's talking about. And
do you think it turns people off from the
Yeah.
product itself?
Yeah. Because it's I mean, if he needs to be on Twitter, tweet about the Jaguars. Well, I don't know. I
Much
just
tweet
don't
about
know.
there, but
But it's such a, ducking, and I didn't see any press conferences or anything like that. I know he was asked a lot of questions. He's got no problem being made the fool of with Tony Storm putting an afro wig on him and the glasses and all these things. Like he's in on the rib of Tony Khan.
he's in on his own. He's in on his own rib. That's what you're saying.
He's ribbing himself on the square here. Every time he's in front of the camera, every time he speaks, every time he tweets on social media, he's ribbing himself. But I think he's turning people off to it. And it just, to me, it opens the door for more criticism, not critiquing, criticism. And now people just want to nitpick everything that goes on because here's a billionaire.
Yeah.
I can't count on one hand how many times Vince tweeted. And never mind tweeted negatively towards another company. Vince was a man and just came out and said what he had to say. But why does Tony need that terrible advertising?
Dommy Feds here on Twitter said he has a blueprint of what not to do in WCW 99 to 2001, and he's making the exact same mistakes.
Yeah. And he's opening the door to keep us all in business.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a fine line. It's like a passion project for him almost. And if you looked at it just like that, Bill, if I were to say to you, this is just for fun for Tony Khan, I'm not saying that's what he feels, but would you look at it the same way? You probably would, because you have a lot of coworkers working there and things, I assume.
Yeah, I'd look at it more with more humor, because I know it's not going to go anywhere and it's not going to do anything. It's just the flavor of the month. The problem is that AEW had, quote me here, everybody who's listening to this and using sound bites, I said had the opportunity to really make a footprint in the wrestling industry. And I think that a big part of it not going to be a bigger success than what he wants or or he's opening the door for TNA to step up and everything else, is because he wants to be in on it. Pick a side, dude. Either put the tights on or come out and dance like Nana and do that if that's the fix you need. But for the love of Pete, stay off. I'd be very interested, and I'm saying this with all sincerity, I'd be very interested to see what Christian Cage has to say about it. Copeland has to say about it.
Like if they were to really speak about it, it's what you're saying. If they're really to,
does he run it past anybody? Where's Daniel Bryan? Right? They've already stamped Daniel Bryan the head of all things morality based and Twitter and all this stuff. So they put him in a bad spot, at least in the public eye. We're all aware of who he is and what he does. He's part of the cutting commission. But why isn't he? Somebody's got to just grab him by the mouth and say, "Shush." Because every time he does it now, it's absolutely insane.
Well, so going back the last couple of weeks, we haven't really talked about it, but AEW's had I guess a different discussion going on about them too. And I guess it kind of took the attention off of that, but neither one's a good thing necessarily. But I just don't think he can help it, man. And listening, and I'll share a clip here in a second, but Eric Bischoff, of course, who's been very vocal and honest about his feelings towards the way AEW is managed, was asked a really good question this week about what he would do differently. And I'll play the answer for you in a minute, but I have when I listened to Eric Bischoff talk about that, I thought man, I can't picture Tony Khan being able to take a step back. He seems like not that type. But then somebody would say Vince McMahon was so involved. What's the difference, Bill?
The difference is Vince was so involved in the business aspect of it. Tony's just involved in what he's involved in.
Yeah, Vince McMahon. It was Vince McMahon. Then there was a Mr. McMahon. They weren't.
Yeah, and Mr. McMahon was the character, but Vince McMahon himself did what was best for business and was always evolving. So we talk about how some fans and some podcasters and some journalists always think that there should be more to AEW, but the same guy keeps cutting it back down. And sooner or later, you're just not going to take it seriously. Excuse me. So much so that I don't care about any more huge announcements. I don't care about, now to me, everything's a joke on them. Every time the lights go off, to me, it's a joke. Every time. Now we're getting people on social media showing with their phones what really happens. I mean, people are literally criticizing every inch of that show, from where the cameramen are on during the TVs to, all over social media. And Tony keeps opening the door for that to happen. And I wish someone would go, listen, if you're proud of what you're doing, that's awesome. But for you to stir the pot, either start hanging around with people who are really good shit disturbers and can really help you stir the pot, or stop trying to be that guy. Because I feel like all that happened this week was he took more eyes off his product and put it on the other one.
There's a difference. Tony Khan's kind of in this more modern era of getting wrapped up with social media and post, and I don't think that's in Vince McMahon's DNA or Triple H. Or
does Tony Khan's dad tweet?
I don't know. You follow him? Does he have a Twitter? I don't know.
I'm sure he has every reason to boast on social media. He's successful.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
His football team across the pond does well. His football team here came close again. Their sport, their business endeavors, but I don't see his dad touting or pointing the finger at the New York Giants going, "Oh, look how bad they are." I don't see that. So where does it come from, except for that one word that I really don't like, and that word starts with an M and ends with a K, and AR's in the middle, and it's called a mark. But he's not a mark for the business; he's being a mark for himself. We're all marks for the business, or we wouldn't have gotten into it.
Yeah, to an extent.
Something about this business I was a mark for, which made me get into it. You're a mark for the business because to me, it's just the same as a fan. It's just sometimes it's just a derogatory word, but it's derogatory in this case with Tony Khan because Start thinking about your people, man. Start thinking about your people. Instead of talking about Jinder Mahal, why aren't you putting over Tony Storm more? Why aren't you doing these things instead of now everybody talks about everybody who's leaving and all the controversies that are going on and adding Tony to that mix? And I just wish someone, I cannot believe with all those brains there that no one's telling him to stop. Unless he truly can't help himself and you really don't care what you're doing. And if the business falls, so what? I'm still a billionaire and everybody in the organization is screwed.
I mean, he seems like a pretty approachable guy.
Yeah, I mean, like
surely
I said,
if somebody wanted to, they could tell
Tony.
him.
I met Tony many years ago when the PC just opened. He came and took the tour. Tony's a fan of the business. I heard Robert Kraft talk earlier today about Bill Belichick and how when the Kraft family bought the Patriots initially, he said he still looked at that team now that he's a businessman with the NFL, but he was still the guy sitting on the steel bleachers watching the games. He was a fan of the game.
Yeah.
And he had to be taught how to become a businessman in that world of NFL. And to me, that's the greatest analogy right now with Tony Khan that I would use. Is he still in the great seats, front row, second row, third row, still touring and seeing the wrestling that he enjoys? But when does he become the businessman that could literally change the face of professional wrestling? I feel like it's 2 steps forward and 4 steps back. But to me, that's the analogy I would use. That what Robert Kraft said about having to learn the business part of the sport he loved and the team he bought. He needed people to help him along the way. So Tony Khan needs a Bill Belichick. Tony Khan needs someone who's not going to go, that's awesome, boss. Great. I love it. Let's do that. Someone needs to go, that's so wrong. There's no heat guy that I'm aware of in AEW. By the way, that's the one thing I was best at. I was the heat guy. The boss told you what to do. You did it. You planned it out. You took the heat for it. Takes all the pressure off of Tony Khan. But I think there needs to be a heat guy, someone to stand up and go, come on.
Did Tony take the tour as a fan or was he looking for pointers? This would have been way before.
Oh, way before AEW was even a thought. He was a fan and knowing, that the Jaguars and everything, and he wasn't far from us. And that's what I say. I respect Tony, and I know it sounds like I'm bagging on him because I kind of am, because I want him to stop. Like, I would love to have a conversation with him for 20 minutes and say this the same exact way to him. Because you don't need it. He doesn't need to be a character. Don't fall into it. You cannot repeat history. So don't keep taking eyes off of your product. That's
Fair point there. Someone said it needs to be Jeff Jarrett. Well, I mean, I'm sure Jeff Jarrett's word weighs heavy, which means it should.
I'm sure it would go a long way, but I like I said, I don't know. You and I don't know. We're not on the inside. We don't know, so we just speculate. But I have to think that whoever might be saying something to him needs to sit down and really hold his hand to the fire and go, Tony, hot, don't touch.
Yeah.
Let's
play the clip for Eric Bischoff when he was asked what
to
do to improve AEW.
Take him off television.
I thought you were going to say turn him down.
Either that or turn him heel. He'd make a great obnoxious heel, wouldn't he?
Yes.
But he is not a baby face. The guy should not be anywhere near a red light on anything that looks like it might be a camera. It's just, you should not. Not in your quasi cosplay press conferences or media scrums or whatever you're trying to present. Just nothing. Let somebody else be the face of your company. When AEW first started, what I was excited about is it appeared for a couple months like Chris Jericho was going to be kind of the face of the company because we were hearing a lot from Chris about AEW and and I thought, okay, that kind of makes sense. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing Tony, and I'm going, ooh, somebody must love him enough to tell him that this is not a good idea. I mean, somebody got to have a girlfriend or parent or brother, sister, anybody say, hey, psh, Tony, I don't know. TV, let somebody else be the face of the company. That'd be number one. Number two is I would hire somebody that really understood professional wrestling, that was a fan like Tony, that really loved the product, but loved it because of its story potential. Somebody that knew wrestling, but also really understood the story.
I thought you brought up some great points when I first listened to that.
And to me, there's only like 3 guys that you can listen to in this business about this. One being, and put them in any order you want, and then we can add people. I would say 4, but it's Vince, Paul Heyman, Eric Bischoff, and then I put Hunter there. So what that, I mean, I think Eric and I said the same exact things, just different ways. Like, find someone that you can trust, because he alluded to that cosplay, that thing with the wig and all that stuff. He's part of his own rib, and he wants to be one of the boys, and I think he wants to be in the locker room, and I think he just wants to be loved by everybody, and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't go on social media. Don't keep taking eyes away from it, and stop being the court jester in your media scrums and all this stuff, because your talent runs roughshod over him. You know what I mean? He's got some really good things that can happen there. And I feel like for wrestling fans like myself, once you lose me, you have to do something to get me back in. But if I'm on the verge of really not being interested and kind of I'll just get the highlights from, the independent wrestling community and all this stuff, or social media, then that's all you're going to get from me, is I'm going to watch the highlights. And trust me, I can watch the highlights and talk about wrestling all day. But you have such great talent. And listen, Kenny Omega should be the face of AEW. He's no dummy. He's hip to being a fan of the business and being a professional in the business. He's hip to social media. He's hip to how things should run. He's part of what started the company. So much like Eric was saying, Jericho, which I would think Jericho he'd be the face of that company if he was the first time we ever saw Chris. But Chris is a legend before he got to AEW. Yeah. But you could take a guy like Kenny Omega, make him the face, and make him the heat guy, and make him the face of the company and all this stuff. And we already know you own it, Tony. We already know you were the savior to wrestling. We already know during COVID you were running Daly's place. We already know the things you keep telling us, but all we see are the things that you're doing.
Take a second here. If you're listening live, we appreciate it. We have Steve saying hi. We have Noah saying hi. Keith.
Yeah, what's up, Noah? What's up,
Mark
Steve?
out there. We got a Mark. Bill was just using that word.
Love it.
Yeah, we got a lot of people listening live across 8 platforms. We appreciate it. We are discussing Tony Khan's Twitter activity. I think I actually titled this recording. I'm trying to remember what I titled it. Somebody cancel Tony Khan's Twitter account, please. It's a little extreme, but I think Chris Jericho really did kind of, and initially he kind of was that face, right? Because it was somebody that we had recognized before. And I think he definitely, getting Chris Jericho in the beginning was huge, right? I think it drew people in to watch it for sure. But at this point in time, you're right. You got to settle on something long-term. So we're talking about, and Eric Bischoff was talking about being the face of something. Like,
right.
So how would you say, in your opinion, WWE approaches that?
They come right out and tell you, knock it off. But they also have, here's the best thing that we did back in the day because I'm old, but back in the day, I remember when we brought in social media training.
Really?
And then everybody was all bent out of shape about it when Twitter was the new rage and all. And we literally had talent meetings, and we had people from Twitter fly into Boston and fly into these things where we had big shows, and the whole roster was there. And people were all bent, oh, I don't need to be told how to do this. But you were told how to do it. And this way your hand was held to the fire, because now you've been told the do's and don'ts, the rights and wrongs, and we'll help you. But someone is always overseeing that. And if Natalia was on Instagram, which she's over huge on Instagram,
Yeah.
and she does great stuff about promoting herself, her brand, and the company and the wrestling business. But if Natalia came out and said, Jinder Mahal got no business being there, and who is he anyhow? You better believe someone would be on her about that. And I'm just using Natty as an example.
Yeah.
So I'm going to fast forward to this. Why did someone make Jeff Hardy take his post down? So what are we watching? What are we policing? Are we deciding who we can police and who we can't? Who's the important people, who aren't? Or are we going to work as an organization to be successful? And now that my mind's going, I'm talking to you and asking these questions, now I don't need another reason why Cody left.
Everybody did wonder when it originally happened why, you know.
I see why. I see why Jade Cargill left. I see why Andrade's leaving.
You bring up a good point as far as it's not just Tony Khan, I guess, when you think about it. Kind of been a thing.
Listen,
Chris Jericho's got into a lot of, you know, and I probably wasted a bunch of his time just tweeting things that, I mean, there's no value added in doing some of the stuff. And I'm not singling him out because it's been multiple people.
But do you think there's a difference when Jericho does it and Tony Khan does it?
I mean, you own the business. So, I mean,
yeah,
of course there's a difference.
Jericho's the talent, the personality, the character. Right. But I go back, I'm going to ask the question again. Jeff Hardy made a comment about, oh, we're not good enough for this or whatever it is. And then it was deleted. Well,
Yeah,
who called him to tell him to take it down? Who called Britt Baker and told her to stop doing these things? So why is
it disciplinary? The committee they have, Bill. Maybe it was a committee.
Then why isn't that committee doing the same thing to their boss? Or are we just in it to go, we're going to get paid as long as we can. Let's ride this thing out as long as we can. And then hopefully someone else will pick us up. And if that's what's going on and that's the mentality, shame on everybody in the locker room. But if you're muting people, but you're not muting the boss, the guy who's steering the ship, the guy who's writing the checks, the guy who's doing all this stuff, then collect your money, folks. Collect it. Make sure it keeps coming, because sooner or later it's going to be no viewers and you're going to think it's COVID all over again. Meanwhile, everybody else is blowing up big.
You're hitting it where you're cutting deep here.
Well, it upsets me to think that you single out certain people and make them delete their post, right? Because apparently Jeff had something to say. Apparently Britt Baker had something to say a couple weeks ago. Apparently, and I'll use MJF can come out and say and do whatever he wants, and there's no repercussions. So what is the chain of command? And did they make it known to everybody? So can Wardlow come out and express his concerns, or is he not at that level? Where is it lie now? So now I want to know, as a person in the back, a businessman, a former producer, a former agent, a former head of the department, I want to know, why is it not good for everybody across the board? And was that explained to everybody? Because to find out, everyone in the world's waiting for something to be deleted, because that's all they get to talk about. Well, Jeff Hardy deleted it. Well,
Bill,
someone asked him to delete it.
People are going nuts here, asking questions all across social media.
I love
want you to elaborate more on this training.
Sure.
You talked about bringing social media training into the performance center.
Yeah. So, it was before the performance center was even built. Okay. But it was in the time when Twitter was taking over, and even before Instagram blew up and all these. It was back when touting? It was tweeting and then touting and all that stuff. So people from Twitter came in.
Hold on. Are you just making things up?
No. There was a thing called, you used to be able to tout.
I don't even know.
See, it didn't last long, but it was one
Sounds
of those.
thrilling, though. Sounds thrilling.
It was one of those things. But as Twitter grew and YouTube and Zack Ryder made things blow up, they would literally bring people in and explain to you why it goes wrong, what the demographic is, what the algorithm means, why you do this. Here's how you promote your brand. Here's how you protect the company. And here's what you stay away from. So much so that it was so useful on the main roster. It's part of becoming an NXT superstar or a WWE superstar is when you're in the performance center. And I believe they still do it. We implemented the social media training. So for all the new hires, that first couple of months, they go through all this training. But here's the do's and don'ts. They put you in front of PR people who are going to ask you questions that could potentially paint you in a bad light. Here's how you sidestep that question. Here's how you put the focus back on the product, back on your storyline, back on the positives, back on the thing. So I think that has to happen, not only in wrestling, but it has to. And I know the NFL did it. I don't know if they still do it, but clearly some of them need a refresher. NBA, all athletes need a refresher, but I think it's something that should be implemented in AEW. And then because there's got to be equal playing ground here, I think.
I'm not going to argue with that. I do think it's interesting. You actually pay a professional to come in and explain these things. I like that approach. That seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
and it's just like anything else, right? You're actually investing in your business.
Yeah,
and that's part of it, right? The people that work there, the public figures, like all these individuals they make an impact on it. So
because you're not just a entertainer or public figure for 5, 8, 10 minutes once a week. You're 24 hours a day. You represent your brand.
You're a celebrity in a way. I mean, really.
Yeah, you're a celebrity, and you have Jeff is a brand. The podcast father is a brand. The Build Them On experience is a brand. We have to protect that. We have to know how to build it up and how to protect it and how to steer the ship away from things that could be perceived as negative. But most importantly, we can't. If you and I got on here and went, what the heck were they thinking with this Jinder Mahal thing? Oh, this thing with Darby Allin, I don't get.
You all right?
It's snowball effect.
You're getting sick thinking about it.
No. Yeah, because I'm talking too much about it
for like 2 months, man.
Jesus, I'm going to stop coughing. I think in May. I think I have it scheduled for May.
Let's just be real honest, though, Bill. You yourself have dealt with a lot on social media.
Yes.
It is kind of social media has escalated even more from when you resigned from the company. But
yes.
What was your approach? Obviously, and I think, like I said earlier, you got to keep in mind you're not from the same generation,
right?
As Tony Khan. How did you handle all that?
My approach was this: don't add fuel to the fire. I had an open forum where I could have come out and said 1,000,002 things. I could have came out and set the wrestling world ablaze. I could have came out, and by the way, I still could come out, point fingers, name names. I know where the bodies are buried.
Well, yeah, just YouTube your name, right?
Yeah. But here's the thing, and this is what we talked about in my house, and this is what I talked about to my close friends in the business and out of the business. Of what are you going to do? Like, defend yourself. There was nothing to defend. There was nothing to it. So why add more fuel to it? And that's the thing that happens. Like, people think, well, I have the right to say this. I have the right to say that. Yes, you do. But think about it before you do it. And what's the repercussions? Well, everybody accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. And in my instance, the public opinion and the court of public opinion and the social media gurus put so much negativity and kept tagging WWE in it with my name, that they had to get away from it. How do we get away from it? Well, let's eliminate the problem. What do you think we should do here, Bill? Listen. And it's very simple. I made a promise. To someone. I said, I'll never do anything to harm this product or what we're doing. And I meant it, and I stuck to it. So I was
You weren't an owner, but you were a manager. I mean, you were
yeah.
you were a leader.
Listen, not for anything. I was an employee and wasn't treated necessarily how an employee is treated. There was no what's the word I want to use? There was no deep dive into let's see all this stuff, because WWE themselves came out and said, we've reviewed this and we've gone through it and there's nothing here. But at the same time, social media was such a blaze. How do we put this fire? Because don't forget, right then and there, that was the first time we had left the state of Florida to run a live event. And then we were getting ready for the Arnold the next day. And then we're getting ready for the first ever, the pay-per-views and all these things that were coming up. And they were like, oh, how do we take away the negative? Here's how. The person leading the ship says, let's do what's best for business. Someone has to tell Tony Khan, let's do what's best for business. Not what makes you feel good at the time. And listen, there's still times like I sit there and I read things, I go, oh man, now don't get me wrong, because if you follow me on social media, I'm very outspoken about drunk, impaired, distracted driving. And so everybody knows what I'm talking about. I received death threats on social media, people wishing ill will to my family and all these things because I talk about their favorite superstar, their favorite NFL star, their favorite actor, their favorite NBA star, all these things. I'm very outspoken about the things I'm passionate about and the things I believe need to be said. Some people can disagree, some people will agree, but you have to pick your spots, right? What's the hill you're going to die on? And Tony has to decide what hill he's going to die on as far as it comes to social media. And if we're making people retract statements, then we should be starting from the top and stop making these statements, because the minute you delete it, it adds more fuel to the fire. Ooh, what's behind this, or what was said another, So it's to me, it's a very big rabbit hole. But as far as it's concerned with my situation, I handled it the only way I saw fit. There was nothing to handle, so there was no need to flame the bring the flames up higher. But I'll talk about it to anybody who wants to discuss it like a normal person. But I have, I think at the time you want to come out and go, but what good does it do? It tears the product down. It tears all the hard work that you put into it. And then it just lets people that court of public opinion, social media is just a way for people to say whatever they want, and they have no interest in it. Because what happened 5 days after I resigned? They went on to hate somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's whatever's hot to talk about, and people can jump on and voice an opinion, whether they're invested in what it is or not. This is free reign, right? We're keyboard cowboys. But I think that's what someone has to explain to him. That's what's happening. And it's taking away all the good that's been done.
Yeah. A lot of comments appreciating that example you just gave, Bill. I think it was a good one, because I just wanted to make sure that got your, I guess, true, not that you don't explain your true feelings, but got your true point of view from it as somebody who has experienced that on social media, and it's obviously just not you, but a lot of people have.
Yeah. And I think there's people in that organization. Jeff Jarrett. We talked about Jeff Jarrett. We talked about Kenny Omega. We talked about Jericho. We talk about these people that are behind the scenes. Dustin Rhodes. we talk about all these people that are behind the scenes that I don't know if they're afraid to say something, or it's not part of their wheelhouse, or they're not in that mix. But somebody has to say something to make it known. Social media, listen, at the end of the day, whoever Tony's talking to on Twitter, I'm going to go on a limb and say 70% of them don't watch his product. So they're not invested in what he's doing, what he's trying to do. That 70% also the same people who may follow someone but don't know what they do. They just want their thumbs up or that check mark or whatever it is. And if Tony goes out of business, are any of those people going to run to Omega Psi and say, hey, let me invest in you and let me help you do something else? Young Bucks, all these guys. Let me, hey, I'm so invested in you. I've been following you. I'm one of the 700,000 people on Twitter that listen to everything you do. No. And someone has to explain to Tony, what's your agenda? If you want to be that guy, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you want to be successful in this business, someday you'll sell it for $9.1 billion. But after a while, you have to, let me ask you this, now that you got me thinking and my brain is actually working normal, you got to wonder what your stations are thinking. What are their PR people thinking? What are their human resources people thinking? You're putting over other people's products on another network and all these other things. Why aren't you talking about your network, your sponsors, your people backing you? So after a while, how are they going to be perceiving what he's doing?
Good question. Those are the things that really matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as from a business
if you're
standpoint,
talking about the bottom line,
that's what's going to impact your business.
Yep.
Let's segue out of this conversation. I'll show something here. It's from your good friend Vince Russo, the former podcast network you were on. I think this sums it all up, though. It's important to mention this.
Bro, Tony makes it clear he's a Meltzer guy. And it's all about wrestling, and it's all about the 5-star matches, and it's not about the characters and the entertainment. He made that clear. Now, bro, here's what you got to understand, man. God, there's so much to unravel here about Tony Khan. And Tony Khan, I really hope you are listening. Before I get into the booking philosophy, bro, let me first talk about Tony Khan. Bro, I get so many comments every single day with people telling me, oh, you hate Tony Khan, so you're always going to bury Tony Khan. You're bitter because Tony Khan didn't hire you. This, that, and the other thing. Let me make one thing perfectly clear, bro. I've never met Tony Khan. Now, obviously, I have spoken to people in AEW. I have spoken to people, that even currently work for Tony Khan. And bro, those people don't even have to tell me this because I can see with my own 2 eyes. Bro, Tony Khan really seems like a good guy. He really seems like a nice guy, bro. There's no question about that. I mean, bro, trust me. There are politicians in the wrestling business, bro. Used car salesmen, snake oil salesmen, liars, thieves, bro. There's filthy people in the wrestling business. Tony Khan does not come across as being one of them.
Is that a good way to end it?
Yeah.
Man,
it's
like I thought
almost
that
like
through, didn't I? It's like I timed that out, Bill.
it's almost like he's trying to be one of the boys. He wants to be part of the action. It goes back to my thing about, when a guy says, if I ever get the book, I'm not going to be involved but everybody becomes the booker, becomes part of the main event. Like, I think and I've heard people say this, like it's his playground. And he wants to be part of it.
A lot of people are commenting, bro. There's so many bros. That just came up. It's funny when you hear Vince Russo talk about that. He said he got that from the locker room. Was there really that many bros dropped in the locker room, or do you think that was in Vince's heart all along?
Since I've known Vince, it's bro.
Yeah,
bro. Anybody, it's a golden rule here. My son does it with his buddies. They go, "Come on, bro," and then every once in a while we'll be in the gym here at the mansion, and he goes, "Hey, bro," and I said, "What?" He goes, "I'm sorry, Dad. I just bro's not used around here, but Vince can use it all day long."
bro. What's segue with that, bro?
Bro,
Matt Riddle. Did you see what he said earlier? That he was, I think he was at like an autograph signing session, and he said that it was originally in the plans for him to win Money in the Bank when Austin Theory did, and also that he was going to win the Royal Rumble in 2022, but they changed it last second, just like Money in the Bank. Did you hear this?
I read it. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was the part where Brock came in on it too. What was the part with Brock?
Was that the Rumble part? I'm trying to remember.
I think
I don't remember, but I know that Austin Theory was he said because Vince liked Austin Theory so much, he changed it last second. Dave Meltzer says none of it's true, though, so don't worry.
Well, as long as Uncle Dave says it's not true. I'm always a big fan, and I ask this question all the time, is why do people wait so long to share this? And then why do you feel the need to share it, period? Because to me, wrestling rules apply. You're shedding light on the fact that no one believed in you and it was changed last minute. You're shedding the fact that you had issues with people behind the scenes, you know. And then you're shedding light on, you know, I don't know. It's not protecting your brand. And I don't know Matt, and it's not a dig on Matt. I've never met Matt, no. But everybody I know who knows him speaks very highly of him, and he doesn't come off as a dummy to me. I just don't know. It's always that thing, right? Of how do I keep myself relevant in the industry when I'm trying to do more? So now that the old school thinking was you kept your stories to yourself. You don't, good, bad, or indifferent. There's certain things you don't talk about, right? Or there's certain things, I don't know. So I just think as people try to make themselves relevant, here comes social media and we tell stories and then people are talking about us.
He's another guy that's had a rough go at it on social media, huh? Man, that might have been ultimately what led to his exit from WWE. We can only speculate, but
yeah,
there's one guy that knows for sure. Let's kick off the next part of the episode with that. Let's go to the one and only, the uncle that everybody needs, Uncle Dave.
Raw. Amazon Prime.
That's what John Orand talked about, Amazon Prime and FX as possibilities, and Rich Greenfield of
Dave always got a
Lightshed
podcast on the
said
couch.
WBD. So those are two analysts. John Orand is pretty well connected, but he's made predictions on wrestling that haven't happened as well. You know, he was one of the ones, although it was talked about, and it does make sense. You know, when SmackDown went to Fox, and it was talked about to make SmackDown 3 hours and do the third hour on FS1, and he had talked about that, and it never happened. But that's not his fault because it was something that was considered. So, it's Amazon Prime is certainly in the hunt. I would say WBD's in the hunt, and FX. For
Amazon
sure.
Prime is making some massive changes at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when people want to make big changes, Peacock, they wanted that WWE network, and I can see Amazon thinking, you know what, this pro wrestling got a lot of people. I think that the timing, to me, if I had to make a prediction, it would be Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
So,
it's an interesting one because what will it do to viewership? And we don't know. I mean, obviously, the Thursday Amazon Prime Football gets a lot of viewers, but it's nowhere close to the number of viewers that every other football game gets. So it's still a long way from matching television as far as viewers go. But if the money's big enough, it doesn't necessarily matter. I mean, because they're going to make the deal based partially on money. And, the two things are money and exposure, and you got to weigh them both. What's going to get you the most eyeballs, and another key is also not necessarily the most eyeballs, but the most eyeballs of people who will spend money on the product, which is not always the most eyeballs, because that's people who spend money on the product are generally going to be younger, so it's more about younger eyeballs. Older people, look back. I mean, obviously the audience for Raw changed greatly in August for whatever reason. A lot of over 50 viewers left, but the under 50 viewers are much stronger than they've been.
Okay.
That's the Wrestling Observer. You can subscribe to it like I do, even though they have me blocked.
Okay.
You know what's funny though? They don't have me blocked on YouTube, and I do join Brian Alvarez's show live a lot of times during the week. And every time I say anything, there's just one guy named what is that guy's name? I think it's a Dave. He's a Dave something. And every time I say anything, all he replies is, "Why are WWE employees in here, Marks?" It's all he replies to me like that with everything that I say.
What did Dave Meltzer say that anyone else could not say? He literally went around and said, "Well, here's a guy who makes predictions, and sometimes he's right." That's every wrestling fan in the world. That's every armchair booker in the world. What knowledge did Dave drop on us there?
Insider knowledge.
I'm at a loss.
Interesting point though was brought up though about Amazon Prime now being in the front run. What do you think about that? You told me a couple weeks ago that you've never even DVR'd a show.
Never.
How do you feel about streaming Monday Night Raw?
I don't know how that's going to work.
Like literally, or like you don't know how it's going to work out for them?
Probably both. Because on Thursday night, when they had Thursday Night Football on Amazon, I couldn't get it to turn on. I had to wait for someone to be home and turn it on for me. Otherwise, I missed the game. But I don't know how that's going to work for someone like me, like an older guy who doesn't want to go through all these things of clicking and adding the app and all these things. And listen, if it's good, I'm going to find a way to watch it.
Yeah.
So it's like anything else. I have to find a way to learn how to stream it. I think Amazon Prime is the same as Netflix and HBO and all these other things, right? And they're just getting into bigger and broader things. And I agree with one thing. Wrestling is hot right now. And if you're going to jump on it, and now you have, because you have to think wherever wrestling goes, the UFC is going as well, or vice versa. So I think there's a lot of money there. I think there's a lot of opportunities. And the people who want to tune in to the product are going to find it. Same as they did with Peacock. And when WWE Network was the first thing, and there was so many problems with people trying to sign on and get the signal, all these things, but it all works out. So it's just people getting used to doing that. It's going to be a big change for wrestling fans, though.
And WWE Network was so ahead of its time in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It was highly regarded. I miss that very much. But to that point, I do think that we always talk about it, but somebody wants to get their hand on that premium live event and all that library.
They're going to find it. So
I think Peacock, we said, has that for another 2 years.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to really want that.
And so here's the thing, we go back to it, but here's the thing that upsets me is, and you talk because you're right, I won't DVR something. Because the other side of it is, if you DVR something, you have to stay off your phone. You have to stay off your computer. You have to not talk to your buddies. You have to not do anything until you watch what you want to watch, because what is it? Spoilers, right? Spoilers are everywhere, and clips of what's happening are everywhere. And so now, to me, DVRing doesn't make sense, because you can just you could just tune into something the following day. So it'll be interesting, but I think it's going to be a big change for Raw fans.
But remember the debate we heard a few weeks ago. It's not a sporting event, Bill.
Yeah, it's.
You ever watch the Hulu version of Monday Night Raw?
No.
Yeah, it's like a hour and a half version. A lot of people, quite a bit of people watch it. It cuts stuff out, obviously, right? It's 3 hours
Right.
long, but there's no commercials or anything. But they cut out a lot of stuff. People do watch that, so maybe you should try one day. Try something new, Bill. But I think it would be different. I don't know though. It's hard to say. But I see what they're saying when they talked about, and Dave brought up a good point when he said it's not just about the eyeballs; it's about the people that are watching it, because you see that with WWE versus like golf, right?
Right.
You see WWE, they have like Snickers commercials. They'll have Slim Jim, and then you see golf has like Rolex and
Right.
a really expensive thing. So it's definitely a truth to that. Now, as far as what he's talking about of in August, the big change in the older demographic dropping off, that I don't know the details on that. I can't speak on that. Definitely interesting. And then more youthful viewership happening at the same time.
I'm in that 50, 60-year-old demographic, and I think just as big a viewer as I was, 20 years ago. So like you said, I don't know those numbers, and I think that should only matter to the people running the show, instead of trying to tell people if you're 50, you're not going to like this.
Well, Meltzer says I'm in the key demo.
You are, or he is.
I am in the key
You
demo.
are the key demo.
Yes. And you ever heard that song? Did I ever send you that song?
No.
Maybe that song got me blocked by Dave Meltzer too. I'll send you the key demo song later.
Okay.
It was somebody made a song for Jim Cornette Experience. I don't know if they made it for Jim Cornette. I don't want to say that because he has a bunch of songs on his YouTube. But he sent it to Jim Cornette, and he loved it. I think it's the ending of his show, or it was for quite a while.
Well, I'm going to play it on Twitter and tag Uncle Dave and see if I get blocked. And then
you
that's
might.
the reason. He follows me. I follow him. I have no ill will towards.
Well, I think so it came down to one or two comments that got me blocked. It's either Meltzer says I'm in the key demo, or it was if that match was in the Tokyo Dome, it'd be 7 stars. We'll never know for sure which one got me blocked, though.
But why? Let me ask you this: why would that get you blocked? Because he didn't like the way you put it out there?
I don't know.
There's the thing with social media. Because
I think
you may mean it some way.
Really good. I think it was was it the WrestleMania match? I don't remember. It was a WWE women's match that he did not get over 4.5, and somebody asked why, and I made that comment. Probably not the nicest thing ever, but hey, I thought if all these other things were 5-star matches, it was 5-star matches, and I thought that was the point, to debate it,
And if you put it out there, you're open for a conversation or debate or a counterpoint.
From a paid consumer, I'm a paid consumer of the wrestling
of the key demographic.
Anyway, let's move on. We'll see what happens though. Warner Brothers Discovery still on the run too, though. See what that does with AEW and everything.
It's gonna be interesting, yeah.
Kind of segueing towards the end of the show here. I did want to talk about this. I saw this today and I thought it was really cool. I don't know if you've seen it. Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW's announcement today. You heard about this?
Yes.
So I can't really read the screen without my bifocals on. I'm just kidding. I don't have bifocals. But what it's saying is Mickie James is getting involved with the company.
She is now the head of female talent relations.
No, let's look.
Yeah, she's
female
the head
talent.
of women.
Oh, yeah. And the executive producer of wrestling shows. That's cool.
Yeah. And so how cool is it that Mickey's back where she started? I'm not sure. So I guess, does that mean she's left Impact? I'm not sure. Or TNA, right? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
All I know is that this is a great move. As Al continues to build OVW and the people he's got there, and their Netflix thing has really done well. And This
Have you
is a
watched
great.
it?
I have not watched it yet. No, that's one of the ones I will go and watch.
Me too, and I have not yet.
But
I
I
will.
think Nikki being there, is that she's been up and down the road. She's been in the main event spot. She's been in the opening dark match. She's been everything in between. She's been through the system. She's a survivor, and she's knowledgeable beyond belief. And I think Mickey has this great demeanor about her that when she talks to people, they understand they're having a conversation with her. But I also know she has the ability to demand your attention.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be very, very interesting in a really good way to see how OVW keeps evolving. But what a great move! It's almost one. As soon as I saw it, I went, "Wow! I wish Billy Corgan would have thought of that first, or so even TNA would have thought of that for her." But I guarantee that Mickey helps bigger things happen for OVW. So congratulations to her, and all good things.
A lot of people picking up on your Survivor comment, and they're saying, "I'm a survivor." They're typing out
Put a ring on it. Same girl, right? I don't know the same song. Don't get me going.
You know, dude. You're so in. You don't even know. Mickey James, my favorite female wrestler. You know that.
Hey,
Good person, and you've done some cool stuff with her too. Her and Nick.
Yeah,
we talked about.
But I
them
had
a
a
bunch.
chance to be in the front row as Mickey was coming up. Lorexis, Lurie, all those things when she was in OVW, I was there, and so I've got to see her evolve into one of the best women to ever do it. Excuse me, and
getting choked up talking about it.
Well, I get dry in my new room, but I think she's going to do great things. I'm a big fan of Mickey James in and out of the ring as a person as well as a talent, and her and Nick together are both doing amazing things in this business. So hats off to them. I'm excited for Al. I'm excited for everybody involved with OVW. I look forward to see what they're going to do.
All right, that sums up the conversation today. I actually took a break this week because I've been so far behind with editing on everything else. I've taken a break from On This Day and
how dare you
on pro wrestling history. But I will say one thing. I only shared one video this week, and it was Edge when he cashed in that first Money in the Bank.
Yes.
Then the next night, him and Lita had the live sex show on Raw. So that's really all I've posted this week. So, well, how crazy was that, man? So first of all, the Money in the Bank thing was obviously they're still doing it today.
Yep.
But John Cena just had that match, right? Vince McMahon comes out and Edge is he made the announcement, right?
It's Edge is cashing in.
You saw the video.
I by the way, and I say it again, I'm a big fan of your On This Day. Big fan of it. You bring out some good stuff, and it, like I said, to me, it's the same as doing this together. My mind just starts working and remembering and stuff. So it's really, really cool. But yeah, you need a break once in a while, man. I don't think we're offended by that. It makes us appreciate it more when you get back into it.
Another question. We're going to go to some questions here to end the show. That's what we're going to do. Who is your favorite baseball player today?
Today, in today's game, I'm going to go with I'm a big Justice fan. Yankees.
That's because you're from around there.
Yeah, and my favorite baseball player of all time is Thurman Munson from the Yankees. So I'm Yankees strong.
Any New Year's resolution?
Yes. My biggest resolution was I was going to work on finding the old Bill physically and mentally. I surround myself with the foundation 26 hours a day, and I want to make sure that I'm around for a little while longer. So I want to find that time to dedicate to myself. And I said it with my family, and I wanted to make sure they understood I wasn't being selfish. Excuse me, but they all agreed that I don't take time. You know, you need time. You're a dad, you know that. Sometimes you're like, oh, I just don't have 10 minutes to decompress and all these things. And I've kind of let go the things that made me put me in my kumbaya. Like I love going fishing. I've been fishing in a long time. I love the train, slowly back into that with my son now that he's becoming a monster. But it leads back into that wrestling question of last week and my post. There's some things that I want to do for Bill. So that was, and it's not so much a resolution, it's just a goal of mine to get back into a better groove. And I think it'll be better for my family, it'll be better for me. It'll be better across the board. So I guess that's my resolution.
It's a good question.
How about you? I know they didn't ask, but I want to know, what was your resolution?
Yeah, they weren't asking me for sure. I don't know. I think part of what I've thought about doing, and I'll be completely honest. So my daughter got me to start watching Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, I could create content that could give back more. So I've been trying to wrap my head around that. Just because that guy's awesome.
Yeah.
The things he does are awesome. So
my
that's
boy
kind of been
turned
my
me
thing,
on
man.
then.
Like trying to think about that. What can I do? You know?
Yeah.
You do your thing. What could Jeff do? I don't know. But
it's interesting to pursue it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I just got to find the time.
Yeah,
I will.
That's it.
But I will. Just watch me. Okay. Somebody said, "What's your favorite kids movie?" Maggie asked, "What's your favorite kids movie?"
Shrek.
Oh.
Didn't even hesitate. Shrek.
No, you didn't. Shrek. You dropped that fast. Why Shrek your favorite?
Oh, he's a big green ogre, and he was funny, and he had no filter, and he wrestled in the first Shrek. He had a cage match inside the ropes.
I forgot about that actually.
See,
those are some neat movies.
Shrek is good movies, man.
We watched the Santa Claus over. That's kind of a kids movie, kind of not, but that Tim Allen
1, 2, and 3. Did you watch all three?
The first.
Oh,
my daughter. You know how kids are when they're little and they want to watch like the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
Tried watching that like 4 times over one weekend, but man, we watched Santa Claus. That was good.
I think we watched Elf 123 times.
Elf. What? How do you feel about Christmas Vacation?
Come on, it's awesome.
It's my favorite.
Awesome. It's my second favorite Christmas movie behind Die Hard.
I knew you'd do that. I knew you'd do that. Best big man wrestler today.
Today, best big man?
Yep.
See,
they put you right on the spot.
Because there's a lot of big men out there that are good that aren't doing what they're... I think the best big man today for me, active right now, I think I put Drew McIntyre there.
Put somebody... What about somebody under the radar? It's flying under the radar right now.
This new kid in NXT who just became North American champion. And the other kid from NXT, Bronson.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboy. Those are two guys that I watch pretty closely because there's something about them. Like, as a coach, I always say, give me an hour with someone, what you have and what there is. And I watched this kid Bronson. Is it Bronson? Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Do you know who I'm talking about? They just split up. It was the two guys and the girl, the Cowboys. Well, I think he's got something special, and it's going to be really good.
Noah says you remind me of Shrek in many ways.
Thank you, Noah. I don't take that poorly at all.
Keith said, "Bill, you are awesome."
Thank you, Keith. You're awesome, brother.
Somebody, okay. Favorite manager of all time.
Jimmy
then
Hart.
There's another one that says valet.
Jimmy Hart, because he was my manager and I watched him when I was a kid. And then Jimmy literally led me through 7 years in WCW. Not just, we didn't get together 3 minutes before my matches. And hey, baby, let's do it. Like Jimmy walked me through the politics and walked me through the everyday lifestyle and really taught me how to adjust. So Jimmy Hart's my favorite manager.
It's important for everybody to have somebody like that.
Yeah, I'm blessed to have Jimmy. And still when I see him to this day, it's like we never left each other. So I was blessed to have Jimmy Hart as an advocate of mine.
Your valet was the second part.
My favorite valet? Well, I was an Elizabeth fan. I think Elizabeth was probably the best valet. Although I thought Sherry Martel was an awesome valet as well. So that'd be
Did we
my
watch
tie.
that clip a few weeks ago? It's longer than that, but she was in that cage match.
Sherry?
Yeah, didn't she jump off the cage on that clip we watched? Yeah, the
She
Flair and
could-
Hogan, right?
Yeah, she could go. She
She's
had
so
no
awesome.
fear. She was great.
Yeah, she's great. Somebody, and I got to remember, because if you're listening to this later, we're live. We got several people asking a bunch of questions. If somebody's asking what your shirt says, Bill,
My
they may be
shirt
new. They may be new to the show.
is one of the foundation events that we had. This one I believe was a 5-10K. So I just so happens I have the foundation hat on and a foundation shirt on today. You can learn more about the foundation if you go to the DeMottFoundation.com.
Asking your thoughts on the Christian Cage and Adam Copeland match from the pay-per-view. Did you get a chance to see it?
Here's what I like about the whole thing. I think I heard Adam say it. I'm not sure when. I love the fact that they know they can come to that at any time. It doesn't have to be their live and die story. I like what Adam's doing now with the younger guys, right? He's going to start elevating people, but there's always the thing, Christian's right there. So Christian can branch off, but they're right there. And that's the thing that's so aggravating is you have two guys who understand that. Let them lead behind the scenes as well. You know what I mean? But I like the story. I like where it's going. I like that they're not beating it like a dead horse. I like that every week we're not seeing Christian and Copeland, But I know they can come back to it. And when they come back to it, that's what's interesting.
Someone asked a really good question here. It's kind of one moment in your wrestling career, if you could. I'm not saying if you have to, but that's what I'm trying to make it where you actually answer. If you could go back and change one thing, what would you change? That's a really good question.
If I'm being honest,
wouldn't expect any different.
I would not change how I did it. But what I know now and what I didn't know then is I probably would have played the political game a little bit more. I was just like, it's cliche. I was just happy to be there, man. I've said this a million times. Like, I shook Eric Bischoff's hand. He said he was going to pay me, and I was going to be working for WCW. Cool. I just never got involved in all the brouhaha, the politics in and out of the ring and all those things.
You said you wish you would have. Why?
I think I wish I would have, because I might have been able to go. No, I take it back. Now that I'm thinking it out loud, I wouldn't change it, because I went from a kid who's never been in a wrestling ring. No, I wouldn't change it, because
I know
that allowed me to come back to Hugh Morris, which allowed me to be Bill DeMott. I mean, I've literally gone from wrestler to commentator to agent to producer to coach to trainer to TV, reality TV, to running the whole developmental system. I wouldn't change anything in my career, because I probably would have screwed it up worse earlier if I was involved in all that stuff. So I don't think I'd run it the same way.
Made you think, though.
Yeah, it sure did. It stopped me right in my tracks too.
It was a good one. I like it.
That's a good question. Excellent question.
All right, we'll do one more. Let me find one. Okay, what? Okay, we'll do two more because I like
Okay.
the one that Noah just literally threw up. And I saw somebody else's I like. If you weren't a wrestler, what would you have done with your life?
I wanted to be a. I got really into football in high school, and I got the opportunity to play football in college. But I was an art guy in college before I blew that out of the water. I love to draw and those things, so I wanted to be like a commercial artist. And the university I was going to was big on commercial art. So I'm not sure what I would have done. I know what I would have liked to have done. Probably something in that artistic thing, but I found this crazy thing called wrestling, and got dared to do it, and that took place of everything.
The artsy type. You seem like the artsy type, Bill. Me
It's
though.
it's so funny.
My worst two grades in high school were in a drawing class and in a ceramics class. I may have been drawing inappropriate things, and I may have made inappropriate things in ceramics class and put it in somebody's locker.
Well,
Teacher didn't appreciate it.
That's tremendous.
I'll let everybody's imagination take over what I was making in ceramics class.
Oh, that's tremendous.
It landed me in a little bit of trouble.
Well,
it's a good story for later, though, right?
This is how you and I have gotten paired up.
Okay, last question of the night. Somebody said, it's a long one. I'm trying to kind of summarize it here in a easy to comprehend way. They're asking if there was one unconventional thing that you learned from wrestling that nobody would probably expect it would be a learning experience. What was it? I think what they're asking is something that it's not just saying, oh, it made I made a good living off it. I provided for my family. But what is one good lesson that you learned from wrestling that people may not know that somebody could learn from wrestling? Is what they're asking.
How resilient you are as a person. Wrestling is to me is a very lonely lifestyle, especially when you're starting out. So I can only use myself as an example. I never got on a plane before I was married. And I flew one time and vowed never to fly again, but I had to fly to go to Europe, and I had to do it. And I was traveling by myself for the first time. And I'm in different countries, and I didn't speak the language, and the TVs weren't working, and you couldn't do this. And you start to find out what you're really made of. And it had nothing to do with wrestling, because wrestling was, thank goodness, was the outlet. But that only lasted for 3 hours a night. How do you stay busy? What do you do? How do you stay healthy mentally and physically? And how do you survive the game of wrestling? And so what wrestling taught me was I'm a lot smarter than I've ever given myself credit for. And I'm a lot more resilient than I thought, because I survived those things and kind of taught myself along the way and made myself become a survivor, not of wrestling, just of life, of being alone. It takes a lot out of you when you're not with your family 300 days a year. It takes a lot out of you when relationships are struggling. It takes a lot out of you when the travel gets to be too much, and all these things that you've worked for. So it really taught me about myself, how tough I am mentally and emotionally, so otherwise I never would have found a lot of things out about myself, and it made me not be afraid to be honest. And I think a lot of us, we don't want to hurt people's feelings, and it's the truth. You don't want to hurt people's, but it helped me be honest and I'm talking about with myself. Like, I wasn't just telling myself stories of how great I was. Like, it taught me how to reevaluate everything I did. And it took a lot of years in wrestling to do that. But I think that's the one thing that people learn is about themselves and what they're really capable of doing. And it shows by people that leave the business and go on to do even bigger and better things.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Bill. I watched this. There's probably like last year at some point. This clip where Tom Petty was being interviewed by like a local news station, and he was talking about life on the road and all that. Then afterwards, the reporter talked about how he really got the vibe that it was a very weird, and wrestling's the same way. You're on the road,
Yeah.
entertaining. It was a very weird lifestyle to live, and he almost felt like, even though Tom Petty had all these fans, thousands of people he'd see when he performed, people that would love to hang out with him at any point in time, that he almost felt like he could get the feeling he was lonely.
Lonely, man. Yeah, and I
He
get
lived
that
a lonely
because
life.
you 3 hours. You're in front of people for 3 hours. And when you're sitting in a room in Mexico City, not knowing anyone, and you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to do for the next 20 hours before you wrestle again, and all the accolades and adulation you get, and all the attention doesn't make you less lonely. You struggle. I think that happens with anybody in entertainment or something like that. And
It's a good interview.
the,
You know,
learn,
it kind
the
of
learning
ended it
curve.
with that impact that socially what it had done to him. It was a kind of like not a typical interview you'd see with like a musician than
Yeah.
you know how they like explain it afterwards, their feelings on the interview. I thought that was a really interesting approach to the conversation. And I went back and watched it. And I'm like, I see what he's saying for sure.
And it makes us all introverted. Till this day, I have a fear of being around a group of people. Because when I was performing, I didn't see those people.
15,000 people, you didn't see him.
I never saw them. I just saw above their heads. Otherwise, I never could have gone out there every night with all those people looking at me. I couldn't have done it. But even to I walked to church and I have an amazing church family. But if more than 3 people are by me, I start to get very uncomfortable, and I start to get, because you've lived alone for so long, and you've been around so many people, but it's a lonely lifestyle. And people go, how can you be lonely? You're married, you got kids, you got great friends, you got millions of fans. You've done all these things. It's very lonely, man, and I believe it makes everyone in wrestling introverted. To where, listen, and I'll say this, and I'll get Lacey on here one time, and she'll go, well, let's go do this. I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to, which is funny because now I go out and speak to 20,000 kids every year. So it's always goes back to, but it's a lonely lifestyle. So I can see that with TP saying that.
Yeah. This has been it's a little bit different ending to the episodes than what I typically do, but I like this, man.
Yeah. I thought we had great questions, but I like when we dive into like, hey, this is what brings us to the dance every week, but it's funny, right? It steamrolls. One thing leads into another, and we get to, and I love the honesty. Like, I love the honesty. I love the questions. These questions are amazing, and I hope they never stop. And for the record, I'll answer every question I can honestly, but I'll always say if it's something that makes me uncomfortable, I'll just go, I'd rather not talk about it. But I don't think you'll ever hear me say that. I'll always share my thoughts or feelings with it. But so keep those questions coming. This was really awesome, man. And you got
going
my
on
brain
a year, and I
going
haven't heard you
again.
turn down one yet, really, except for what that cryptic tweet meant. But we'll get to that someday. So yeah, we appreciate everybody that's listening live, even the people that are obviously watching or listening later. We appreciate that.
Yes.
But if you want to join the experience live, we encourage you to be a part of the show. It's every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, or when Jeff gets his crap together. It's usually 9:05. I've been known to get stuck chaining some poopy diapers. It might be 9:20.
Right.
That's showbiz, though, folks. I just got to tell myself that to feel better. It's really just me procrastinating and getting behind on work. But nevertheless, join us live. Of course, check out all of our content. We're on every platform. One easy way to get to it all is to go to BillDeMott.com. There you can check out the amazing work that Bill's doing with the foundation, Carrie Ann DeMott Foundation there, of course. You go to JeffT-shirts.com and buy the Bill DeMott Experience t-shirt. All the proceeds go to the foundation. Of course, Jeff Townsend Media houses all the different content I create. So, Bill, did I sum everything up pretty well?
Buddy, I think your house is getting bigger with all the content you're creating.
It's a good thing I don't have to, back in the day when you created content, you have tapes. When I was a little kid,
Oh,
I had like my own little show that I made, right? And I had so many of these tapes, like the adapter that would go into the VCR piece.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking? Man, I had so many. I don't know what happened to all this stuff. Man, if only YouTube was around back then, right?
well, until you find it and put it up on YouTube now, people
Oh.
love it.
I just got to find it somewhere. It's probably
People
in a
love it.
parent's, in a storage. Who knows
Yep.
where it is? I'll have to try to look for it though.
Yep.
Bill, another great episode, man. I'm gonna try to. Royal Rumble season is gonna come around pretty quick. I'm gonna try to do something special next week if I can.
Okay.
If I can put it all together, we're gonna see though.
Great.
So make sure you tune in next week and all the future episodes. Bill, I'll let you kick it out with your outro. I'll hit my outro, then we'll hit the music.
Hey, everybody, thanks again for the questions. Keep following us and listening. Do what you say. Stay what you mean what you do.
And I'm going to say, like the same thing I always say on everything that I do, keep being you and keep being great.
Don't let mama regret if your love and your sweat.